Hello there and welcome to the Card Grotto. Today I'm taking part in the Save the Crafter YouTuber video hop. A bunch of YouTubers have got together to bring some crafty inspiration in the form of tutorials in the hope that you may find some new channels to subscribe to. So for my card I'm starting off with this beautiful stencil. This is the Simon Says Stamp Stained Glass 1 stencil and I'm going to be embossing onto some watercolour cardstock from Tim Holtz. I find that this Tim Holtz watercolour cardstock embosses really nicely with stencils, and I'm going to be using the Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine for this, but I do believe that you can pretty much emboss stencils with any die cutting machine. So I've got the platform at the bottom and then I've got the tan mat, I've got the watercolour cardstock, then my stencil, and then I'm just going to add a piece of typing paper over the top. This is just to protect that cardstock, and then I'm going to add on the embossing plate on the top. And then I'm just going to run that through the die cutting machine. And then I'm going to get a really nice impression onto that cardstock. And this is a really pretty pattern. It's a little bit difficult to see on camera, but it's really pretty in real life. And I want to add some colour to this panel, so I'm going to add that with some watercolours. So first I'm just going to spray this panel with some water. And then I'm going to go in with some Dr. P.H. Martin's Radiant watercolours. And I really like these watercolours because they've got a nice dropper bottle on them, so they're really good for this kind of technique. So the colours I'm using are Hyacinth blue, Juniper green and Turquoise blue, and as you can see they're really highly pigmented. I actually want more of a pastel kind of shade for my card, so I'm going to use a lot of water for this, but I really like that you can get a wide range of hues with these watercolours. So going in with a lot of water, as you can see. And when I've got the saturation kind of how I want it, and then I'm going to go in with a little bit more of the paint just to add in colour where I want it. So just spraying a lot more of that water on there and just dropping in some more colour in various places just to make sure that that colour melds and sort of blends in with each other. And as you can see, it kind of goes into the little nooks and crannies of that embossing, which is really nice. And as you can see, I've got all of that excess paint there at the side, and I didn't capture it on camera, but I'm going to mop that up with some watercolour paper, just some sort of plain watercolour paper, so I don't waste any of that afterwards. And then when I'm happy with how that's looking, I'm going to just set that aside slightly just to get any of the excess off the edges, and then I'm going to spritz that with some sheer shimmer spritz. This is in Sparkle. Just going to add a faint mist over the top of that just for some added sparkle, and I'm going to set that aside to air dry. This is the finished piece. A little bit difficult to see that embossing on camera again, but it is really pretty in real life. So I've cut that down to 5 1/4 inches by 4 inches, and I'm just adding some adhesive onto the back of that and sticking that down to an A2 top folding white card base. I then have the Simon Says Stamp Sending die, and I've cut that 3 times from some white cardstock with Stick It on the back, and I've stacked that one on top of each other, and I'm just removing the last piece of the Stick It from the backing piece from the back of that there, and then I can stick that down onto my card. Really like the font on this. And then I've taken the You Love and Hugs sentiment here, and I have stamped that down with some Versamark ink, applied white embossing powder and heat set that onto some black cardstock, and then I've just cut that down into a strip, added some foam tape onto the back of that, and I can stick that down just to complete the sentiment. And that sentiment there is from the Simon Says Stamp Sending and Wishing stamp set. So just struggling to get that foam tape off the back there, and then I can stick that down. And then to finish off the card, I'm just going to add some Lucy's clear iridescent jewels, and I'm just sticking those down with some multimedia matte and a jewel picker. So that's the card finished for today. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Links to the products will be in the description bar on YouTube and also over on my blog. And I will have a link to the next person in the hop down in the description bar also. And it wouldn't be a hop without prizes. So on my stop you can win a $25 gift certificate to Simon Says Stamp and also 2 ink pads from Catherine Pooler. You need to leave a comment on this video to enter by the 25th of February. The ink pads can only be won by US residents, so in your comments can you please state that you are eligible to win. The Simon Says Stamp voucher is open internationally and the winners will be announced by Justine Hovey, and I will have a link to her post down below as well. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you soon.